designed that you get the species, you go from one species to another instantaneously by selecting on-off switches, basically. So he's got a system where all the information is in there. All the camels that have ever existed were built into and are built into the modern camels. All the dogs that have ever lived and everything, and a whole bunch more we have not seen, probably built into any dog, including your Chihuahua. And every cat that has ever been, the lions, the tigers, the house cats, everything is designed into every cat. So that every cat that walked off the ark, both cats that walked off the ark, had the information to build all the cats. And thus, in the matter of centuries, within 2 centuries, you can actually generate all the cats that have ever lived. By some mechanism. He put the information in there, and there must be also some system that activates that information. This is what I would suggest has to be true if God wants to recover the information in the system following the flood. There should then be evidence in the present of that kind of crazy idea. I think one evidence of this is how fast biological organisms can recover. This is one of my favorite pictures from Mount St. Helens. This was taken in 1991, about 9 years after the eruption. The position here is we're looking towards Spirit Lake. The volcano is right over here to the right. The material, this light-colored material back here, is part of the avalanche material that came down on May 18th, 1980 and filled Toutle River Valley. I mean, just completely filled it. In fact, part of it, you can see in the background, goes up this mountain, over that mountain and on to the other. It's really cool. But basically about 3/4 of a cubic kilometer of material came down and filled this valley in a matter of seconds. Then in 1980. Then in 1982, a mud flow from the mountain came down and carved a canyon into that avalanche debris. It's called Engineers Canyon. So it actually was formed in 1982. If you stand here and look all around it, or if you're up above and can see everything around it, there's no ecosystem stuff. There's no cattails. There's no marsh grass and all that anywhere closer than 10 miles in any direction from this particular point. But here in 1991, this is a beautiful, fully developed marsh here with cattails. There are coyote prints. There were elk prints in here. I mean, there is none of this biological material is otherwise any closer than 10 miles from this location. I mean, you walk 10 feet over here. There's nothing living there. This is amazing. How did this happen? And even better, because I like these kinds of things, about 20 feet over is a hot spring. Hot spring has got the colors in it that you find in the colors of Yellowstone hot springs. Of course, the colors are formed by microorganisms. There's a bunch of bacteria that love to live in hot water. How'd they get there? There's a complete ecosystem of microorganisms in hot water. Obviously, we know where the hot water comes from, but how do the critters get in there? And where are they coming from? We have no idea. Actually, a little clue came last year at GSA, last November. It's blowing my mind. I'm still trying to process it. Turns out we're learning that the density of bacteria below the surface, you got a density of bacteria at depth in the ocean, and then the density of bacteria below the ocean, below the sediment surface, increases as you go down. We're now digging down about 1 to 2 kilometers beneath the surface. The number of bacteria per unit volume is increasing, continues to increase, over 2 kilometers beneath the surface. At this point, 99% of the biomass of the entire Earth, add up the weight of all humans, the weight of all trees, the weight of all animals, is less than 1% the biomass we've found underneath the surface of bacteria. And it's increasing as we're going down. This is mind-boggling. It has some really cool implications for maintaining biodiversity indefinitely and allowing the Earth to persist forever in the pre-fall situation. But that's a different story. I'm sorry, I've got to get back on the... What am I talking about? Oh yeah, where the critters came from here. I suspect that that's going to be our ultimate answer, is they're actually coming from beneath the surface and being brought up to the surface. But organisms are recovering very rapidly after the flood. We realize that we estimated 10,000 elk were killed in Mount St. Helens eruption. But the elk herd was restored within about 15 years because the triplet and twin production in the elk herd doubled and tripled following the eruption. And then it went back down to normal after the herd was restored. Really interesting. Something's designed into organisms, and this is true of several species of deer, that if they see too many, if a female deer, female red deer, for example, sees too many of her own kind, she'll dissolve the fetus. She'll spontaneously abort the fetus. If she sees not enough, she'll multiple ovulate, and she'll have twins and triplets at a higher rate. And even more bizarre, a female red deer, if mated with the head male, will produce twins and triplets almost 100% of the time. How does she know? What's the connection between the knowledge that I just mated with the head deer, and it is only that, it's information that is changing the reproductive fecundity. Fascinating. I suspect this is giving us a clue into something built into all organisms before the fall. All organisms must have had population control mechanisms where they would increase in number till they filled the earth and then no longer produce young. There must be something built into all organisms which shuts down reproduction or stops, let's say, ovulation when you've filled the earth. Makes sense, but that's another distraction. Sorry. I'll skip on or I'll never get done here. Another observation at Mount St. Helens. We estimate 1 million logs were floating on Spirit Lake at the end of that eruption. It is now, this is 2007, it is now 27 years later.